got such a bad headache and my feet are cold. Guilty! Hi friends, how are you? I hope that you're very, very well. This video is very kindly sponsored by Stereo, which is a new live broadcasting app which I will tell you about in a little bit. So I did a video a couple of weeks ago talking about Matthew Morrison and how people have been very cruel to him online, and I've had enough of it. And today I'm here to, really still be advocating for Matthew Morrison. There are literally so many videos on YouTube of all of the bad things that Mr. Schue did. So I am here to just balance out the scales and just show you all the other bad things that everybody else did. And hopefully you'll understand. Listen, Mr. Schue was never one of my favourite characters, but I'm out here like, no, that man needs some respect. I don't know, I just feel like it's really ridiculous how everyone's behaving. But a lot of people say, but he always plays creepy characters. Mr. Schue was so awful. And listen, Mr. Schue was pretty awful. Now, I think we're forgetting two things. One, that Matthew Morrison, when he was cast in Glee, was potentially given the first episode, maybe the pilot, before he accepted the role or whatever. He was not to know all of the bad stuff that Will would have gone on to do. And then once you're cast, you have to do what they say. Like, if we're gonna blame anyone, it should be the writers, surely. And then I thought, do you know what, as well? Secondly, Mr. Will Schuester did some pretty awful things, but so many other characters in Glee were just as bad. And today I'm gonna talk about those things. I have a gavel, because I am going to declare people either guilty or not guilty of being worse or at least as bad as Mr. Schue. I bought this off Amazon and it didn't come with a little thingy, so I'm using my Glee for ukulele sheet music as my guilty. If you don't know me, my name's Amy. I post a lot of Glee content and theatre stuff on here, so if you like that kind of thing, please subscribe. Let's get started. Let's start with everybody's favourite narcissist, Rachel Berry. Do we remember the time that Rachel Berry sent Sunshine to a crack den? All because Sunshine was a better singer than Rachel? Can we talk about the moment when Kurt's dad was really sick and he was in hospital and Rachel went up to him and sang "Papa, Can You Hear Me" from Yentl? What about when Mercedes was talking about the Glee Club and she said we should do music by black artists and Mercedes should get more solos, and Rachel said this is the Glee Club, not the Crunk Club? What about when Rachel cheated on Finn with his best friend Puck, and her reasoning was that Finn and Rachel had broken up, he slept with Santana? You were on a break. You were broken up. That can't be your excuse for cheating. What about when Rachel and Kurt were both going for the high school class president? Is that what it's called? And Kurt actually wanted to become class president so that he could actually make changes in the school. And Rachel wanted it so that she could have something better on her college applications. So already it's like, come on, Rachel, support him. Minor interlude while I put some socks on because my tootsies are cold. And then Rachel finally was like, actually, maybe I should do this so that Kurt wins. She stuffed the ballot boxes so that he would win, but then it was by cheating, so Kurt nearly got kicked out of school. Rachel, come on! Be better, Rachel Berry. What about when Rachel Berry was cast in her dream role on Broadway and she flaked out of a performance by lying to her company manager and saying that she was unwell and flying to LA to audition for a TV show? Rachel Berry, your whole thing was that you were committed and you cared and you were professional. Well, and then it's like you're gonna flake and lie and go to LA, and so early on in her contract, it's just... And I mean, they're only like scratching the top of the surface with Rachel as well for all of the offensive and awful things she said. So Rachel Berry, I find you guilty for being worse than, or at least as bad as, Will Schuester. Guilty! Next up on the gavel, we have Mercedes Jones, who threw a rock at Kurt's car window because she fancied him and he didn't fancy her because he was gay. Mercedes, wrecking somebody's car? You bust up my heart. Listen, she did give us bust your windows, and really I don't think it's that bad, but I did want to include it because I like talking about Mercedes Jones. So No, we don't think that's as bad as or worse than anything that Mr. Schue did, but it's still not great. So as I say, this video is very kindly sponsored by Stereo. So it's a brand new live broadcasting app, which is basically like, there's loads of people on there, you do kind of live shows, and there's live shows on like everything, and loads of really popular creators are on there. I was listening to a really great Dan and Phil one yesterday, very interesting, and there's honestly so much stuff on there. It's great. The best thing though is that when you're listening to a live, the people who are listening, you can send in like a voice note and can be a part of the show. It's really nice to like have on in the background while you're doing something as well. I like putting it on when I'm like making dinner or something. And as I say, there's loads of different creators on there, creators who you'll know from YouTube and TV and stuff. And then at the same time, you can just randomly pop onto somebody else's chat and just hear somebody talking about something completely different. And it's so interesting. It's such a great app. Highly recommend. I've spent so much time on it. I did a video with Stereo a couple of weeks ago, and since then I've been on it like every day, listening to people's lives. So me and Olivia have done a few shows now. We have so much fun. We've talked about the Grinch movie that Matthew Morrison did. We talked about High School Musical, about a Harry Styles musical, and if we were going to cast Harry Styles in a musical. And then yesterday we were talking about movie musicals, about upcoming movie musicals, our favourites, ones that we thought worked well and ones that we didn't. It was a really, really interesting conversation. And my favourite thing was that, so as I say, you can send in like voice notes, and we had some people singing, we had somebody playing the piano, and then we had loads of different opinions from people. It was so great, and it's so nice to kind of talk to you guys as well. I feel like it's the app where I have had the most interaction with people who follow my channel or whatever, and it was so much fun. This is a little bit from our last show.
Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found.
Wish you could see my face. I'm beaming. That was so beautiful.
That was so nice.
We love Dear Evan Hansen, don't we, Olivia?
Yes, we do. I just don't know how I feel about the film, though.
I know, me too.
Because I didn't even realise they'd filmed it already. And in my head, it's
Yeah.
like, I think it's like the Wicked film has taken so long, to not come out. Like, it's ever going to come out.
Yeah.
But the Dear Evan Hansen film just feels like it's come out of nowhere.
Well, they have to, because they wanted Ben to play Evan, and he's, aging out of it, isn't he?
So our next show is going to be on Monday the 22nd of March, so if you're interested, I'll leave a link down below. It's a free app. Honestly, it's so much fun. I think it's great. Okay, next up we have Kitty. When they were doing a production of Grease, made Marley's costume smaller and manipulated her into eventually developing an eating disorder. That's pretty messed up, isn't it? I would say that is worse than, or at least as bad as, anything that Mr. Schue ever did. So, guilty. Okay, next up on the list, we have Unique. I love Unique, but hun, remember when you catfished Ryder? That wasn't okay. Catfishing isn't okay. And it was like this whole catfishing thing, and then everybody just forgot about it. Really? Anyway, Unique. Do we think that catfishing Ryder is as bad as or worse than anything Mr. Schue ever did? I don't know if it's worse than, but I think it's as bad as. So, guilty. Okay, next up we have Blaine. Blaney days. Now, Blaine dated Karofsky, who was his ex-boyfriend's bully. Listen, in the gay dating pool, I'm sure in Lima, Ohio, I'm sure there's not a huge amount of people to date. However, I think Karofsky made Kurt want to kill himself. He just constantly tormented him, and I don't know, personally, I couldn't forgive that. I think Blaine shouldn't have dated Karofsky. It just feels wrong, do you know? So Blaine, guilty. I'm sorry, hun. Okay, Finn Hudson. We all love Finn, but listen, Finn did some bad things. What about when Finn outed Santana and then, to make it better, sang an acoustic version of Girls Just Wanna Have Fun? Really, Finn? Really? What about when Finn, who was Mr. Schue's best man, listen, I know, creepy, I know, but what about when Finn was Mr. Schuster's best man, and before the wedding, Miss Pillsbury, who was Mr. Schue's fiance, was feeling really stressed, and to like calm her down, Finn kissed her? What? If I was really stressed out and then some literal child, somebody who was literally like a child at the school I worked in, kissed me, that would just make it 10 times worse. Like Finn. No. Okay, so I'll be honest, when I was like compiling this list, I wanted to see if I'd forgotten anything, and I found this thread on Reddit where somebody was talking about things that people did in Glee that were really bad. And somebody was talking about when Finn made his grilled cheese that became the infamous grilled cheeses. They said that something that was unforgivable that he did was he used cheese slices in his grilled cheese. I'll be honest, I've only made a grilled cheese like maybe twice in my life, but I use cheese slices. So I can't make him guilty on that. But on outing Santana and on kissing his teacher to calm her down, what kind of toxic male bullshit is that? We are finding Finn Hudson guilty. I don't know why I bought this. I bought this just for this video and it doesn't even really make sense. So if anybody has a use for a plastic gavel from Amazon, please let me know. Okay, so in this one we're going to talk about Sam and Artie together. Listen, Artie was just a constant barrage of sexist and body shaming remarks, which we don't stand for in this house. So already you're on my bad side, Artie. What about when Ryder told Artie and Sam that he had been assaulted as a child, and Artie and Sam were like, yeah, good on you, pal, and just completely invalidated his whole experience and made him feel wrong for obviously having trauma from this situation? No, boys, absolutely not. So Artie and Sam, I do think that is worse than, or at least as bad as, anything that Mr. Schue did. Okay, and our final school child who is on the list is Quinn Fabre. Beautiful Quinn. Okay, so what about when Quinn had sex with Puck and cheated on Finn and then gaslit him and manipulated him into thinking that the baby was his and like lying to him? No. And like, that's not nice. It's not fair. It all comes out in the wash. And then something else that Quinn did that I think is really bad was when Shelby adopted Quinn's baby Beth, and Quinn went round to Shelby's house and was gonna plant evidence of like drugs and all this bad stuff to make Shelby look like a bad mother so that she would get her baby given back to her. I understand. I think that the whole story of like adoption and somebody else taking care of your baby must be incredibly hard, but she was already having access to her. Also, like, don't frame somebody for something that they didn't do. So Quinn, do we think she's guilty? Worse than, or at least as bad as Mr. Schue? For what she did to Finn, I'm gonna say guilty. Okay, now let's move on to the adults, because I understand what you're saying. Amy, those awful things that all the Glee Club kids did, it doesn't matter because Will Schuester was a teacher. Well, let's get on to the teachers. I like an even playing field, you know? Terry Schuester, Will's wife. Terry, firstly, let's link it to the school. So Terry was hired as the school nurse. Where's your DBS check, my friends? Where is your qualifications check? Terry, who had only ever worked at Sheets and things, was out here being hired as the school nurse, and she had no idea what she was doing, so she gave all of the kids some kind of medication that got them all high. Terrible! And I blame Terry and I blame the school. So when you say, yes, Will Schuester planted drugs on Finn, what about the woman who actually gave drugs to the kids? And also, she faked a pregnancy of Will Schuester's baby and then tried to force Quinn into giving her baby. I'm sorry, that is 100% worse than anything that Mr. Schue ever did. Guilty. Okay, let's talk about April Rhodes, who was kind of in the Glee Club, then kind of not in the Glee Club. Was she a teacher at some point? I don't even know. But what about April, who came into the school and gave the kids alcohol to get them drunk and taught them how to steal things? Guilty. Okay, next we have Shelby, who obviously adopted Quinn's baby and then was found out to be Rachel's birth mum as well. Now, something I think is really bad is when Shelby, obviously, as I say, was Rachel's biological mum and like wasn't there for her in her life, and then came back to the school and became like a teacher and still wasn't there for Rachel. And I think, like, fair enough, Rachel was adopted. You don't have to go to that school and like parade it around in front of her. Do you know what I mean? Like, that feels so wrong to me. And then obviously like Rachel is seeing Shelby looking after Beth, and she's like, but you were my mum, why didn't you look after me? And then also Shelby had a relationship with Puck, who was the father of the baby that she adopted, which is just like unnecessary. And then was he still at school at the time? Or at least he'd been at school. That age difference, no. Shelby, I find you guilty. And now let's talk about Sue Sylvester, because I hear you cry. All of those things aren't that bad. Sue Sylvester is one of my favourite characters of Glee. I love her. But let's be honest, if we're really pulling out every time that Will Schuester gave a kid a funny look or did something bad, then we have to do the same for Sue. And that's what I'm about to do. Sue Sylvester tried to fly Brittany out of a cannon. Dangerous. Sue started the League of Doom with people who shouldn't have been around the Glee Club and around young people. Sue drugged and blackmailed the head teacher. Sue went to Will and Emma's wedding dressed in an exact replica of Emma's wedding dress. That's awful. Now, talking of weddings, as I say, I was looking on Reddit for some of these things to see if I'd forgotten, and somebody was like, Sue tried to marry herself. That's awful. Listen, that comment was clearly from somebody who wasn't lonely, because I'm this close to marrying myself. This close. Sue had a vendetta against Blaine, who was a student, where she put cement in his hair gel. She ruined his family's credit score. Ridiculous. Sue went to Rachel's opening night on Broadway and talked throughout the performance, and then left to go and have sex with one of her like past boyfriends, and had sex with him all around and all over Rachel and Kurt's apartment. Rachel and Kurt, who again were students when she was a teacher. Like, and lots of people talk about when Will and Emma had sex on school grounds. What about when Sue had sex on school grounds with Brian Ryan? I mean, just for having sex with someone called Brian Ryan should be bad enough. People say, what about when Will Schuester told people in the Glee Club they were a minority because they were in the Glee Club? What about when Sue split the kids in the Glee Club into two groups of minorities and not minorities? Really? Lots of people say it was very strange that Will had Finn as his best man, and he had this like strange relationship with the Glee Club and they were oddly close. What about when Sue asked the boy members of the Glee Club to be her sperm donor for her baby? That's so terrible. What about when Santana got a boob job because she was insecure and Sue was so angry that she demoted her from being head cheerleader? That's not nice. What about when Sue wanted to teach the Glee Club about domestic violence, and to do that she made them perform the cell block tango from Chicago? A great way to learn a lesson. Okay, what about when Sue forced Kurt into drag to compete against Unique, who was actually trans, not a drag queen? No. Now, lots of people say about when Will Schuester would not stop the Glee Club twerking so that Unique could have their own bathroom. And I get that. That's Will just stop twerking. But at the same time, Sue Sylvester was, in fact, the head teacher. So she could have still, you know, after Will did that, she could have been the bigger person and made that separate bathroom for Unique so that they could go to the bathroom comfortably. And she still didn't do that. Like, you could have been the bigger person there, Sue. And finally, what about when Sue Sylvester banned tater tots? Unforgivable. Therefore, I find Sue Sylvester in the case against, is she worse than or at least as bad as Will Schuester? Yes, guilty. Anyway, that is just my stupid fun video. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your favourite awful thing that somebody did on Glee, your favourite unforgivable thing. I will do another Glee unpopular opinions video soon. I know that people are wanting them, so I will do another one soon. Follow me over on Instagram. That is where I usually ask for unpopular opinions. And also make sure to download the Stereo app and follow me over there so that you can be involved in my next Stereo live chat. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're all looking after yourselves and staying well. I'll see you soon. Bye!